technical glitch on my original link. And so I'm coming to you just from my live YouTube channel, hoping that those of you who signed up for the Intro to Bridal Hair Masterclass can quit live in my channel. So I tried to get my scheduled stream going and it kept giving me an error message and I could not do it. So we have to pivot and we are here live on YouTube. And so I'm hoping that you can come and join me. And as always, I'm gonna have a replay. So if you weren't able to find it in time, I will send you the replay. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Heidi. I love teaching about updos and how to work in the wedding space. And so today, this is an Intro to Bridal Hair Masterclass. So I'm gonna be covering a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, and we are gonna be learning an updo as well. And then if you signed up for the class, you should be getting emails as well with some freebies that I have in there. Some of the things that I'm teaching today, you can get downloads in there as well. And then just a good way to ask me questions in that as well. So check your spam, check your promotions if you don't have it. updocollective@gmail.com is what you're looking for. And let's get started. So today I'm gonna go over quickly tools, products that I use, and then we're gonna go through my 5 steps on how to do updos easily from the start. So these are kind of my for almost every updo that I do. So let's get started talking about tools. One thing that I don't want to hold you back from doing updos in bridal hair is feeling like you have to have a huge kit, okay? So I'm going to tell you the things that I think are the basics that you just need to get started. And if you don't have a lot of stuff, you can build your kit as you go. So this is a good way just to get started doing bridal hair. Make sure you have these things on hand. The first thing that you're gonna need obviously is a curling iron. So a 1 1/4 inch works great for so many updos. And that's what I use for lots of them. Of course, there's other things you can have as well, different sizes, but for most basic updos, 1 1/4 will work great. Then the next thing is gonna be a flat iron. So if you need to have 2 tools, a flat iron is gonna be it. You wanna have that for smoothing, for bangs, for little tight curly areas around the hairline, polishing. That's going to be a great tool for you as well. And then obviously we want to have something to brush through the hair, so a paddle brush is great. And then the combs that I love that are kind of essentials for me is going to be a tail comb. So I'm using that for sectioning the hair. 3 rows of prongs in it, and I use that for combing through each section. And then finally, I really like to have a comb with metal prongs, and that is for detailing. If you want to have something extra right off the bat, especially in this season with a lot more smooth styles coming through, I recommend a boar bristle brush. So this is going to have more bristles on it so you can smooth hair and get that sleek look that we're looking for sometimes. And then, you know, we want to have sectioning clips, we want to have bobby pins, we want to have hairpins, and those are the things that we need to get started, okay? Now, as far as product goes, you don't need to have millions and millions of products to get started doing bridal hair, okay? I just think you need a few essentials, and it's only 3 things. So I want you to have a hairspray, preferably flexible hold, so it's brushable. And then you're also gonna wanna have a texture spray and a texture powder. And those 3 tools will carry you so far in bridal hair. In addition to those products, there's obviously gonna be smoothing serums, there's gonna be texture, taffies, like all sorts of stuff, right? But just to get started, flexible hold hairspray, texture spray, and a texture powder are gonna be golden to get you going. So those are tools and products. If you signed up for this masterclass in advance, then you're gonna have that as a download with all the products that I use, including links to where to purchase them. Okay, so now that we've talked about that, let's get going on the 5 steps that I use for every updo. So these are 5 steps that, especially if you're getting started, you can start using them right away on every single updo you do. It's gonna give you a roadmap to get started and to not feel like you're getting lost in updos and to really feel like you have some structure and know where to go. So number 1, and this is like my top number 1 secret to updos, and it's not even a technique. Number 1 is gonna be your consultation, okay? So consultations are extremely important for so many reasons in bridal hair. Number 1, the consultation is gonna be building trust for you with your bride. So you're gonna spend a lot of time with her. I recommend making sure you have at least 15 minutes just to talk through what she's thinking about, because this is a bride. She's spending a lot of money. It's different than your every 4-week, 6-week client in a salon. This is someone who's putting a big investment into her day, and so each vendor that she selects, she wants to feel like she is getting her money's worth, that she's getting heard, that she's having that person collaborate with a part of her wedding. And so by spending a lot of time with her, you're giving her really, you know, the time that she needs to feel comfortable with you and for you to really get to know her vision, her style, her overall aesthetic for her wedding, and kind of just get to know kind of her vibe and how she is, so you know how to work with her better. So that's really important for building trust. But the other thing about doing the consultation is you want to know if you can execute on the style that she's looking for before she even comes and sits in your chair. So rather than having a panic of having someone book you for a wedding trial, they come and sit in your chair, they sit down and they show you something and you're like, there is no way I can do this. And then you're panicking, she can sense your anxiety, you try to do something, it's not good, she doesn't like it, you don't like it, nobody's happy. That's not good for anybody. So my recommendation in doing the consult is, especially when you're new to updos or you're just rusty and getting back into them, before you even meet somebody in your chair, make sure you have had email, text, phone conversation with them so you understand what they're looking for and what their hair type is like. This will give you the power to say no if you need to. So if you have a bride inquiring with you and she sends you a picture and you know you cannot do it, your job is to say no. And that is okay. You don't have to say yes to everything. When you say no to that bride, you can refer her to somebody that you know can do it, and you both will be better off. Now, if it's something that you think that you maybe can do, but you're not super confident in it, then I recommend getting a mannequin head, practicing that style a bunch of times before her trial run, and then giving it a go on the trial. By doing this in advance, you're going to save yourself a lot of anxiety, a lot of headaches, and just have yourself more mentally prepared going into your bridal trial than if you don't do any of these things in advance. So the consultation is number one. It's huge. I also have a download for you that goes over kind of what I do in my whole trial run, all the questions that I ask brides in advance. So we'll kind of help give you a roadmap of how to run a consultation if you haven't done it before. So number one, consultation, okay? Number two, before we even get started, is going to be prepping the hair. So sometimes prepping the hair means you need to give them some tips in advance for how to prep it. That might be someone who's got maybe kind of wavy hair, but it's kind of frizzy, and you can just tell off the bat that it's not going to smooth for you with a flat iron. They might need to get a blowout before the wedding day, okay? They might need to get a haircut if they have tons of dead ends and they want to have their hair down. Things like that you want to think about for prep. But overall, in your actual consultation, what the prep looks like is, first of all, just brushing through our hair. So first you're just going to brush through it. Make sure you're getting any kinks out. You can kind of get the feel for her hair at this point, get the density of it, see how thick it is, see kind of what you're working with, and kind of help give you an idea of what you have and how much hair you're going to be needing, or if you need to add hair in with extensions, or if she's got a lot of hair, you can start to strategize. And then the next thing I want you to do is you're going to blast it with the flexible hold hairspray. So I go through and I spray roots to ends throughout the whole head, spray all that. And then we're going to brush through that as well. So that just gives a nice coating of flexible hairspray to get started. And it's going to just get your hair ready for you to start to use the curling iron in. Especially in like places like where I live, Minnesota, it's so dry. Sometimes when I get in there with a brush, immediately it's like flying up. And so you need to get some product in there right away to kind of calm it down, bring it together, and get it ready for you. Okay. You also can use dry shampoo at the roots at this point. So if you're finding that she's got some oil, or it just needs a little bit of oomph, then using dry shampoo to absorb that oil, or you can start to use a little texture spray in her roots if you're seeing right off the bat that it needs some help. So that's what I mean by prepping the hair, is just getting the hair ready for you to execute your updo. So we've got our consultation, number two is our prep, and number three is our section. So sectioning is huge, especially when you're first starting out on updos. You want to make sure you're not getting lost in here. You want to make sure you don't run out of hair, or you have enough hair for the updo you want to do. You want to make sure that you're not spending too much time curling hair that doesn't need to be curled. So all these things are going to be solved in proper prep. So I have a basic sectioning pattern that I use for most updos. So I'm going to teach that one to you today. So the first thing I'm going to do is part her hair the way that she wants it. So that's going to be figured out in your trial, or in your consultation part, is where she wants the part. And then we're going to do a section from like a headband part from ear to ear. So I'm going to kind of go where the head starts to come up high and then go to the top of her ear. So I'm just going to make a clean line down to the top of her ear. And this is another area where if you know that she's got really, really thin hair and she wants some hair left out in front, but she needs all the hair you can get in the back, You probably want to make a smaller section up front because you need to have this hair to work in the back of the updo. Now, conversely, if she's got very, very thick hair, you might want to leave more out in front. So you have more to pull, more to leave out in front and more to kind of like detail with. So you're thinking about those kind of things when you're making these sections. And you just want to make sure they're very clean, that you don't have flyaways, that it's a straight line, and that they are even. Let's see here. I'm gonna clip that away. And so this just gets the hair out of your way, and so you can start focusing section by section as you go. Now our next section is gonna be a rounded triangular section on the top. So it's kind of like a little bit of a triangle because it comes to a point, and it's just about temple to temple. So you're thinking about kind of where her temple is, and that's where you wanna do it. And so I do this in so many updos because having this top section out gives you the flexibility to detail this hair, to create volume, to create interest, and you just have more hair to work with here, and it gives you the flexibility to really detail it in the way that you want. A lot of things I've seen in the last probably 5 years or so has us doing the top first and doing the bottom last, and I think that that is a more advanced skill set. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think that when you're first starting out, that can be challenging. So this is a good way to ensure that you have hair to detail with on the top. Okay, so we've got 3 sections. We've got the 2 in front off our part, and then we have our very top. And then the back section is gonna depend on the density of the hair. So if it's very, very thick, I'd recommend doing 3. If it's thin, you might just need 1. If it's kind of medium, you can do 2. I'm gonna do 2 on this one because she has kind of a medium density hair. So we're gonna start again at the ear, and I'm gonna go straight across to the other ear. So what I like to think of with the sectioning is that it creates a map for you. You are mapping out the head, you're mapping out how you're gonna be doing this updo and what you're gonna be doing with each section as you're sectioning. And so that way you have a very clear plan of where to go. You are not fumbling around trying to find hair that isn't there. And you also are saving yourself time, because if there's hair that you don't need to curl, you didn't spend the first 30 minutes of your time with your bride curling her hair and then separating it and then pinning it. You're only gonna curl what you need to curl. Okay, so now we have our sections. This is my basic roadmap section for every updo. So we've got the back, we have our crown, and then we have the front, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with this low, because I'm gonna do kind of a more low classic updo today, and we're gonna create the foundation. So what I like to do on the foundation is I like to make a lot of space for the bobby pins to go and gather into, so you're not jamming bobby pins into her head, okay? So I'm gonna go through with my texture spray, and I am going to spray at her roots. I'm just taking quick 1-inch sections all through this section. And then I'm gonna go in with my comb, and I'm using the 3-row comb here, and I'm just gonna back comb just slightly. And it doesn't matter how clean this is, because this is all gonna be interior on your updo, right? No one's gonna see this, but this is providing grip, it's providing cushion for your bobby pins, it's creating a great base for where you want your updo to go. Every updo needs a foundation, okay? You need a space where all the hair gathers, because at the end of the day, a bride hair needs to last for hours and hours and hours, and you need to make sure that it does. And how do you ensure that? You ensure that by making sure you have a good foundation that will not fall out for anything. So even if little pieces fall out, some tendrils, a curl here or there, you know the whole thing isn't gonna collapse. All right, so now that I've got that back combing, I'm gonna create a low ponytail here. So I'm gathering the hair in, and wherever this ponytail is where all the hair is gonna be gathered. So you want to make sure that it's exactly where you want your bun or whatever kind of style you're doing to be. If it's off here, it's gonna be off everywhere. So I'm just making this even. I'm making it a little looser because that gives a little space for my bobby pins to go into, and I kind of pull that out slightly. And then I'm going to make a base with this bottom. So rather than curling all this, all I'm gonna do is twist it, and I'm gonna spray it first with texture spray. If the hair is very, very fine, I would recommend using texture powder. Texture powder is gonna work much better on hair that's fine, or just like if you have thick hair but a ton of it, texture powder, just use a lot of it because it's gonna give the hair the grip that you need. So I'm just securing the bottom with an elastic. We've got a 2-strand twist, and then I just wanna pull out the bottom, not a lot, but just enough that it makes it even with the top, because the top is gonna be thicker than the bottom, and I want it to be relatively even. So what I'm gonna do here is get my bobby pins out, and then we're going to twist this up into a bun. So let's see here, I'm gonna pull you a little closer to me, and I'm just wrapping this into a bun. And then I'm gonna hold it, and then I'm gonna pin it. And the way that I pin a foundation is all I do is I take the pin, I don't open it, I go straight in toward the head, so it's touching your head right now. I turn and then push it flat. And I'm gonna do this all the way around, in, down, kind of in each, basically kind of in each loop that I have from the twist. It starts to be able to hold itself, which is great. And then you really want to make sure you get one on that elastic on the bottom. That will really secure that in. And so put as many as you need to feel secure. And once you have that done, you want to just even it out a little bit. So make sure that it is even. You might need to put another bobby pin in. Anything that you do building on top of it is going to build kind of in the shape that you've already created. So if it's a little bit off to the left, all the hair is going to start to be a little left, and you're going to have a lefty updo. Okay, so you want to make sure this is even before you get started. So it's a little bit bigger on this side for me, so I just want to kind of pull out this side and make it a little bit more balanced. So once you have this general shape down that you like here, now you want to make sure to spray this section, and then we're done with it. So I'm going to spray and make sure I'm getting all the flyaways off the nape of her neck. We're not doing this at the end. We're going to do this as we go to make sure each section is clean as we work. And that's really the benefit of doing good sectioning, is it helps you to create really clean updos that don't have frizz, because you're just working section by section, okay? So make sure we've got all the little frizzies off and it's nice and even. Blast it with hairspray, and then we're done with this section. Okay, moving on. Now we're gonna go to this next section here. And this is where the step 4 and 5 of my process comes in. So number 4, I'm gonna curl this as I talk to you. If the hair is really resistant, I would spray each section first, comb through, and then curl. But her hair, because it's a bleachy mannequin, it holds curl beautifully. So the 4th part of my process is going to be texture. And what I mean by texture is the kind of curl and shape we're creating with the hair. So what kind of texture does she want? Does she want really sleek smooth? Does she want really tight curly? Does she want more beach boho wave? Does she want something in between? Does she want a more polished glam wave? Does she want a loose wave? All those things refer to the texture of the hair and what you're going to be creating. And that's going to help you know what kind of tool you need to use and what pattern you're going to create all the way through the hair. So if she has naturally curly hair and she wants to enhance her natural curls, you're going to need to figure out what size her curls are, what kind of curling iron, what size curling iron will match that, and recreate that texture. If she wants to have more of a boho look, then you need to make bigger curls that are more pulled out, okay? So that's what I mean by texture, and it helps you not only figure out how to start moving forward, but you also can kind of figure out how much curl does she want throughout the whole thing. So is she someone that's going to want to have a lot of curl kind of coming all the way back, or like twists, braids, something like that? Or is she going to want more of a smooth texture going and not have much actual interest going on at all? And so like if this girl wanted to have a lot of curl and texture going in through this, I would be starting my curl much higher to get a good curl off the root. So I had texture all the way from the root going into this updo. For this particular person, we're gonna say that she just wants to have some softer curl texture throughout the updo, but not much in the part pulling back. So that's what I mean by texture. And then the fifth one is going to be volume. And so volume refers to how full the whole updo is, not just right at the top, but also on the sides, in the front, off the bangs, in the back. So you need to know this right when you get started, because you need to know how much tension you're gonna be holding when you're pinning these in. If she wants to have no volume, she wants it really sleek, every time that you're gathering the hair and pinning, you're gonna make sure that you're smoothing it and you're getting it close to her head. If she wants to have really big texture, you might need to back comb each section before you even pin it. So you're building that volume as you go and create the updo. You can't expect to make volume just out of this section alone. That's when you start to see frizz, you start to see holes. You don't have enough hair to do that typically. So you wanna make sure you know how much volume they have all throughout, so you know what kind of tension and how you're holding each section as you go. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start to pin this. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna gather it all towards the center. And because we're not doing a lot of volume, we're kind of just doing more of a natural volume on her, I'm just holding with loose tension, just like this as I go. So I'm not pulling it tight, but I'm not doing any additional back combing in here. I'm just gonna kind of gather it loosely at the base of the updo that I've already done, this foundation, and I'm gonna open up my pin and do a foundational pin. So a foundational pin is just when you go against the head like this. And I'm gonna do 2 here. And then I'm just gonna loosen this slightly because I held a little too much tension. And because this is internal, that's okay if I pull this and I have a little bit of frizz here because this is underneath, okay? Now I'm gonna pull these other sections over. Now, if she's got really thick hair, you might need to divide this into 2 and then 1 pin per section. If her hair is on the finer side, you can get by with just maybe 1 pin. But I choose the amount of pins based on how much hair she has. So we don't have a bazillion pins in here and it's really tight and uncomfortable, but you wanna make sure that each of these sections hold, because all of these are, like we said, part of the foundation, and so you don't want them to fall. So I'm just bringing these each over to the top, and I'm not pinning them all directly in the center. I'm kind of going over the top of this foundation that I created. And what happens to me is I often, when I'm doing these tutorials, I'm often finding that my updo is shifting to one side because I'm always standing on one side. So that's just a testimony to the body positioning that you have when you're doing updos, making sure you're standing right behind your work and you have the space to move. So you can make sure that you're creating a nice balanced updo as you go. So we have all this pinned in, okay? And you can see how if I needed more volume here, I would need to create that before I pin, because this isn't gonna magically get higher. And now with this part, what I like to do before I do any pinning is I spray these curls with texture spray. And so that kind of gives them a little bit of grip. Texture spray is like beautiful because it doesn't stick the same way that hairspray does, but it gives it some grip and it gives it some staying power. So I'm gonna kind of create soft curls around this updo. And the way that I'm doing that is I'm just gonna take each section that I pinned and I'm gonna pin them on top of the curls that I already created. So this is where you either are trying to kind of replicate the look that your bride gave you, or you're using your creativity to create something beautiful here. So I'm always looking for balance, and I want to make it full and hiding any bobby pins. Now the other beautiful thing that you're doing here too is you pin into this foundation. So I don't have to pin against her head. What I can do here is I can take this curl, I turn it, right? And I'm holding it into the bun that I created. I use my other finger to open my pin. I grab the hair and I pin it into that bun. So that way this section has some volume out off her head and it's not pressing against your bride's head and causing any tension there. So I'll do that for this curl as well. I open my pin, grab the hair, and then I pin it into that bun that we made underneath. So you can see it's starting to build some volume out, and it's not causing too much tension on your bride. So each section that I pin here, the great thing about doing it this way, where you're just doing one little section at a time, is you have the flexibility to take it out if it's not what you like or if it hurt the bride. So if I put this in, now with this piece that I just did, I have the flexibility to kind of fan it out, and it's doing that because I have the texture spray in it. So I'm making it have a little bit more volume. But the other thing is, if I put it in and I don't like it exactly where it was, or if the bride says, ooh, that one hurt, could you fix that? I can say, sure, and I can just take out this one piece and the whole structure doesn't collapse. When you don't know where you're pinning the hair and what you're doing with it, that's where you start to get frizzy if you're touching a lot of pieces and moving things around. So this is gonna be my first section, and you wanna come through and make sure that this is balanced as well. So I'll stand here and see if any pieces need to kind of go higher, if I need to fan anything out to make it more balanced, knowing that I still have this to bring down and put over the top. Now the other thing is I have these kind of loose ends, and so with these I can either pin them in right away, so maybe I want to tuck them in if I know she doesn't want anything out, or I can just leave them loose, let her decide if she wants them tucked in or not at the end. Once I have this section done and I like it, it's balanced, it's everything that I'm looking for, then I'm going to go through and blast it with hairspray. If you're just joining, this is an intro to bridal hair masterclass. I'm doing it live on my YouTube channel because my original link did not work this morning. There was a glitch and I couldn't get it fixed in time. So we're just going live, inviting the whole world to this masterclass today. But if you want to get in on the emails and have some of my freebies, you can email me at theupdocollective@gmail.com or drop a comment here and I'll get back to you on that. Okay, so we've got our last section here that we're gonna bring down over the top. Now this is where you wanna continually think back to that volume and texture conversation that we had. How much lift does she wanna have here? If she wants a lot, we're gonna be back combing before we even start to pin. And I like to do the back combing before I curl. Sometimes it can get messy if you curl first and then back comb. This is also where you might be thinking about any kind of like twisting or anything that she has. And then this is also where you're gonna think about if she has any accessories, if she's got a veil. Typically brides that are wearing a veil somewhere underneath, but a lot of them wear them on the top. So you kind of wanna think about what you're doing up here and is there a very heavy veil that's gonna be jammed in there and how you can work with that, knowing it in advance. So what I'm gonna do first is I will sprinkle a little bit of texture spray texture powder, because that gives kind of the most grip. And we're gonna do that at the roots. So I'm using my sectioning comb to get up here. And then sprinkle a little bit at the roots, which she's already got some powder up here from my last class. So she's got some good grip already, which is why she's kind of hard to section right now. But you're kind of just generously sprinkling it over, and then you want to back comb. So if you start to back comb and you feel like it's not working, my first tip is to try a different comb. Sometimes you just need a finer tooth comb, and that will be enough to get the back combing up. And then if that's not working, try a little more texture powder, layer it with texture spray. That can help as well. We're just gonna get a little back combing in here to get a little bit of lift. So you can see I've already got some lift, more than I did when we started, even with my fingers. And then I can smooth it over. And if we need to lift it a little bit up here, we can. So once you have your back combing in, then I'm gonna curl it. So we're thinking back to our texture conversation and how much texture we want in here. What I like to do with the top, so I'm not doing a lot of curling because we're gonna have a relatively smooth section over here. But if you really needed a lot of texture here, you would need to go to the top section by section and really get some good curl in there. What I like to do with this top section is kind of lay it out over the top, how it's gonna be pinned in the updo. So you can kind of get a vision for what that looks like before you even do any pinning. That way you can also kind of check in with the bride too to make sure you're on the same pages or on the right track. When I'm curling here, I tend to hold with my other finger here so I can pull the end tight and get a good curl here, but I'm not pulling a lot on the top. We'll get one more curl in here. Okay, so what I want you to do now before you do any pinning is we're gonna get this arranged how we would like. So before I move on, I'm going to do a little texture spray over the top because it's starting to get a touch frizzy. And then I want to come through and comb it into the way that I want it before I do any pinning. So I'm getting rid of all the flyaways, I'm smoothing out any back combing, making sure I've got all the hair in here that I want. And I use this metal comb for that because that really helps to detail. You can see that I'm just laying it over the top here. Gathering it because that's how I'm going to want it gathered. So if you need to make any ridges, if you need to kind of create any texture in here, this is where you do it. Now, before I do any pinning, I am going to use these pin clip combs just to secure in the side right where I want it to go on each side. And so this way I can continue detailing, make sure it's how I want it before I really do any solid pinning. And I can check in with my bride, all the things, make sure it's perfect. So I've got my pin curl clips here, and this is where you're just gonna continually come in and make sure it's even. The less you use your fingers, the better. And then you also wanna check in with your bride. So we're gonna, have her look at the mirror and say, all right, what do we have going on here? Is this the amount of volume that you'd like? So you can go through and lift a little bit to get any balance that you need if it's not balanced, and make sure it's the right amount of volume that she has on top. Let's say she says she loves it. And if that's the case, and you're all done with your detailing, then you can take hairspray and spray over the top, making sure you have all your flyaways in and you're good there. All right, now for pinning the top. So what I'm gonna do, this one needs to be a little higher, just kind of out of my way, is I'm just gonna take a few pins, and you can use open pins for this actually, so what's called a hairpin. So these are pins that I don't use for holding the hair, but more for shaping. And I'm just gonna put them right underneath the bobby pin. And all it's gonna do is kind of hold in the hair in place before I'm ready to really secure it. So I have one on each end for sure. And I'm not expecting these to hold up everything, but what I'm expecting it to do is just give me some room to work. So I have about 4 bobby pins across, and then I just take these out. And because I've hairsprayed it, it already has some stability because of that. Make sure that no flyaways got out. So now this isn't totally secure, but you still have your shape locked in, right? And you have room to work with it if you need to change anything. Now I'm gonna take these sections, and this is what I'm gonna actually put a full pin in, kind of on top of what I just did. And that will lock in the top section without having to have tons of bobby pins on the top and not have to kind of disrupt this part. So I'm not putting too many bobby pins in. So I curled that one up. I'm gonna come through and do that with this section. So this piece here, I kind of like to lay it down before I even pin it so I can kind of see how it's gonna fall. I'm spreading it out slightly, and then I'll pin this one in. So this one I'm opening and then grabbing the hair on the inside of the curl and putting it into the updo. And some of these ends, like if this is too It's kind of coming off too much. I know I can tuck this in later, or maybe I want to use my flat iron to kind of get it down. So this is section by section, just really carefully placing each of these. Bring this over the top like that. Open my bobby pin. I'm kind of going straight down into the updo that I have. So if you wanted the hair to be, if you didn't want it to be this big of an updo in the back, then I would be maybe making these sections bigger as I pin. I would be putting them tighter internally. I would be maybe twisting some of them. But I kind of like this big, more urethral look, if you will. And then we have one more that we can put here. And I'm just gonna tuck this one in and pin it into the foundation that we already created. So I'm opening my bobby pin like that, and then holding the hair with my finger where I want it. So I'm using my other hand, and then I just grab the hair inside and pin internally. Okay, so at this point, we have a majority of the updo done. What we have left is the front. So at this point, if you're noticing in this that you have some holes, so like for me, this is too gappy up here, I know I'm gonna wanna use some of the hair from the front to pull up and work in here. This is where you can use the front hair to fill in anything, cover any bobby pins. Maybe you have like a gap down here or it's a little uneven, you can use the front hair to kind of fill in and do that. But you also want to make sure you have any hair left out that you want to leave for the fringe. But before we get to the front and the last part, we're going to just lock this in with hairspray. So we spray it, knowing that we can still kind of detail the pieces that are out. Make sure all the frizzies are gone. You have no flyaways, everything is locked in. Okay, so now we're going to take these out and we're going to work in vertical sections on the front. So you're first going to section out what you want for a fringe. So my gal has extremely long hair on the front, which is okay, but we wouldn't really probably have this on a wedding day, right? But for today's purposes, we're just gonna leave that like that. And then I'm going to do a horizontal part. So divide this in half. If her hair is really thin, you might not even be doing a part here, okay? You might only have enough hair to do one section pulled back. But I'm gonna curl it away from her face, which, as I've kind of seen things trending, we're seeing a little bit more towards face now. Like I've seen some bigger full bangs, so you might be looking at some of that for your bride. But for today's style, we're gonna do away. And if you want some twisting, braiding, anything here, this is where you would do that part. But I would recommend curling it first before you do any twisting. Curling will really help to make that twist flow more natural. So now we have these two sections here. So this is where you kind of want to think about what we want to do with it and how the look is going to be. So if you want to have something more, like I would say sophisticated and polished, you might want to go more up with this and pulled off the face. If we're going more soft, romantic, maybe a little boho, we might want to go down here. This is maybe where your bride, in your consultation, you've talked with her about maybe she wants to make sure her ears are covered, or maybe she wants them to show because she's got fabulous earrings. You want to think about that at this point, and you also want to think about the tension here. So if you have it be too full, she might not like how that looks from the front. That can be a little like George Washington-esque. Martha Washington, I don't know. It can look old. But maybe she wants to have it be soft and loose and not look like it's too tight. So you want to think about that. And then you want to think about making sure it blends in with your top part here so there's no gappage. And so what I like to do is I kind of hold it over the top and see what it can look like. And I will come through and use a pin again if I need to just have a minute to decide what it looks like. So I can hold that in there and then I can come through with my other one and see what I want to do. So use these to your advantage, but since I kind of know what I'm going to do here, what I want to do is I'm not going to do any pinning up here yet. I'm just going to do a pin in the back. So I'm just going straight down, and you can add a little texture spray to this to kind of get it to go where you want. So if it's not flowing in the right spot, use some texture spray to bring that back. So I have one little pin here, and that's not really going to hold it in, but what is going to hold it in is the next pin I put in. So this is a way to not have your hair heavy with pins in the front. Don't do a lot of pins here. Do a good solid one on the curl in the back. So opening, grabbing, and then I'm going to go down into my updo here. Kind of spread that out a little bit. And I'll come back through later and add some security here. But right now it's really locked in right here with that curl. This one, same thing. Twist it. If you feel like it's not doing what you want, use some texture spray, spraying this back to kind of move in the direction that you want. And then we're going to pin this one in as well. So open my pin, grab the hair, and get that in there. Okay, so we have this side, and then we do the same thing on the other side. Come over here. So you want to use your comb to section the front. And I am going to show you how to do the front. So I'm going to show you how to do some good volume on the front. Keep that out. And then we're going to divide this. So make that a little bit thicker so it matches. I always keep scissors in my bridal kit because so often brides want a trim on their fringe on the morning of the wedding. So either it's not short enough, maybe they're uneven, maybe it's got some ends that don't look very nice. Whatever it is, it's helpful to have scissors or shears. I've used the makeup artist's, little lash scissors if I don't have one on hand, but I try to have one. Curling. And then we're just going to softly pull this back the same way that I did the other side. So I can see right here, kind of show you what I mean about this gap edge. I've got kind of a space right here that I need to fill in. And you can use your comb if you need to really put some tension here, but for the most part, because I've sectioned this out, it's already nice and smooth. I can just lay it more over the top and make sure that it's matching in with that section. And you can also use your metal prong comb to help do that. So if you're finding that it's not blending, use this comb here to bring it together. See how it kind of comes together here, and then I can just lift it. And then I'm gonna pin this one back, and then I'll show you what I'm doing in the back here. So I'm gonna curl this one, and if you bring it back and it's not really doing what you want, curl it again. Do a tighter curl, try a different curl pattern and see if that's doing more what you'd like. It's okay to start over on a section. Okay, so we've got that. We've got this side. Now I've just got these at the back that I need to detail. So this piece here is from this side that I brought up. And so I can bring it down into the updo. I can pull it up here. I can turn it all the way around. By having it curled already and kind of in a good shape, I can kind of move the hair around and see where I want it to land, which is nice for just making sure that everything is really clean and polished and it's exactly where you want it to go. Okay, I'm gonna just pin this one in here. And then I like to pull it out just slightly to make it a little bit bigger. And I've got a lot of loose ends here, and I feel like it's a touch too much, so I'm gonna pull up a few, and then I'm gonna show you how I do the front. So if this is something that you're wanting to get more into, if you feel nervous about doing updos, or you just feel like, man, I would like to just sharpen my skills, I have a boot camp coming up starting next week, 4 weeks of all things bridal hair. So we talk about all the stuff that I've been doing today, sectioning techniques, we do different pinning techniques, how to back comb properly, how to do Hollywood glam waves, We learn multiple techniques for different updos, talk about different ways to curl, how to use different tools, and then we just talk about all things bridal. So anything that you want to know about getting into the wedding industry, how to do good consultations, all that stuff. Talk about some braiding techniques, but a lot of really good foundations. So what I really like to teach is foundations that you can use on every updo. So not just using one or two trending updos, but giving you foundations that you can apply to many updos over the years as trends change. Bridal hair changes all the time. And so you need to know how to do the foundational things to really give you the skills to work on lots of different people, lots of different hair types, and do a lot of updos throughout your career. So for the front, we want to curl this away from the face and get some lift, all right? So what I'm gonna do first is curl it away from her face. I always like to put my hand here so we don't have an accidental burn, right? Come around and do this side. And if her hair is not holding her curl very well, I recommend hairspraying first and then combing it and then curling it. And that will help it really hold. Okay, so we've got two curls here, and the curls are pretty, but they're a little, 90s-esque. So let's bring them up to speed. So what we're gonna do is texture spouter at her root, okay? So you wanna be kind of generous with this. A lot of texture powder in there. And then we want to back comb this section. Just got a little bit on her face, that's okay. Actually, it's not okay, but it's okay for this mannequin. And I'm just combing down, and I'm gonna be kind of intense, but I'm gonna brush through the part that's on the top. So we're kind of going underneath. So all this section that's by her face, I'm pulling down. I'm using my 3-prong comb. If this is not working for you, just try a finer tooth comb. Okay, so now that we have that, what we're gonna do now is use the metal comb to kind of fan this out and comb over the top. So I'm combing over the top where I did that back combing, okay? And I'm gonna comb through the bottom. And then I'm going to hairspray right underneath here to give some lift. And then I'll kind of separate these guys and hold it away from her face and hairspray the curl. You can spread it out a little bit. You can also use texture spray first and then finish with hairspray. So the texture spray kind of gets it set, and then the hairspray will finish it. So you can just lift it up a little more if you need to. And you can see how much more curl we have than just leaving it straight like that. And if you need even more height, you can put a pin in here or a clip in here and kind of let the hairspray dry so you get even more lift. If you need it pinned back, this is a nice soft way to have it pinned back with a lot of volume right at the root. But you can see the difference and how much lift you get there. Okay, friends, here's the back. Very beautiful. At this point, this is where you're checking with your bride, making sure it's exactly how she wants. And if it's perfect, then you want to hit it with the hairspray. If you just have the flexible hold hairspray, just use a lot of it. Finish it off. If you have shine spray, do that first. If you have hard hold hairspray, this is where I'd finish it with a hard hold hairspray. And then if there's any kind of detailing you need to do at the end, this is where you would come up and you could touch up any curls. You could use your flat iron. You know, if I needed to smooth out a bottom, I would just hold the curl and use the flat iron to really polish off the bottom. And that's it. That's your beautiful updo, okay? So just to review really quickly, we have the 5 steps to every successful updo. That's the consult, that's prep, that's section, that's volume, that's texture. Those 5 things that you'll do every time. If you are not on the email that was for this class, Intro to Bridal Hair Masterclass, you can email me or drop a comment and I'll get you the guides that I sent out that kind of reiterate what we talked about today. So email me at theupdocollective@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you're attending here live, I have a $200 off discount code for you to use. The discount code is Masterclass, and you will use that when you sign up for boot camp. So after this is over, because I was scrambling to get this started, I have no links in here, but I will put the link in the comments on how to join the boot camp. Otherwise, if you can write this down, it's www.athenalovebridalbeauty.com/bootcamp. Athena Love Bridal Beauty /bootcamp. So that is my on-site wedding hair and makeup company. And then in that website, I have got access to the bootcamp. And if you use code Masterclass, we will get $200 off. That starts next week. It's 4 weeks. It's virtual, so you can join me anywhere, and you get all the replays and access to me throughout the whole thing. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being flexible. And I am very pleased that you joined me today. Again, my name is Heidi, and I hope I will see you next time. Okay, thanks for joining me. Bye.